In recent videos on Civilization 7, I've covered everything from news to developer interviews and largely a significant base of rumours around the what, where, if, and how of Civ 7. And it got me thinking, actually, it's time to cover the other side. The why Civilization 7 is not coming. Let's provide some balance to this view. And before I begin, because there was some confusion last time, let me be very clear. We have not seen a Civ 7 trailer, nor have there been any official announcements. Without any further ado, my name is JumboPixel. Let us like the like button if we like the video, and jump straight into the content. First and foremost, I think we should look at Civilization 6, and as media outlets rightly point out, it has been around the right amount of time for Civilization 6 to be considered past its use-by date, at least if we look at historical development in the franchise, where significant Civ games live for about 6 years before they're replaced. Civilization 6 is 6 years old. However, it's also important to provide balance here, and that's what this video is all about. Let's not forget that the new Frontier Pass, the most recent DLC, only finished releasing around the middle of 2021 last year, and the Anthology released a few weeks or months later. They called it the final update, but it's also important to note that Civilization 6 really has an impressive amount of longevity behind it. I mean, this game has received some incredible updates over time. It is still the most popular strategy game on the internet. It still fetches the most views, despite similar games releasing like Humankind and also other strategy games in a really saturated market, from things like Crusader Kings 3 to Total War. Yet Civilization 6 shows a remarkable versatility in the face of that increasingly saturated market. It suggests to me that this puppy can keep going for a while. Player count is high. Interest online is high. Sales are probably reasonably high. I think Civilization 6 can definitely live as the mantle of the Civilization franchise for a wee while longer yet, and not really encounter any issues. It's proven that to us already. If we take one step back and then consider who makes the game, firaxis, we also note a couple of things. As I've covered already on the channel, they are hiring like there's no tomorrow. If you're looking for a job, firaxis might be the place to look, because last time I checked, they had about 20 or 30 job listings. However, it's really important to note here, and it should be stressed, that they are, of course, working on other titles. Most importantly, of course, that sort of Marvel XCOM game, Midnight Suns, that we've heard a little bit about, that has also been delayed from, I think its initial first release date of March. I think it was pushed back to August of this year, from the top of my head. Either way, it signals two things. Firstly, the studio is busy with other developments. And secondly, those developments are delayed, right? So, could it be a studio under pressure, perhaps? Could it be a studio that is incredibly ambitious and it's got a lot of work on its plate? Also entirely possible. But we then need to take one step back further still and consider the wider market and world that they're operating in. And many of you pointed this out in the comments last time, and you're absolutely right in saying that the global conditions are not necessarily the best right now, right? We have the letter after B, number before 20, still proving to be a significant issue, from global supply chains to employment to everywhere in between. You name it, it's still a big problem. Maybe this year will be the year that problem will subdue. Not for me to decide. We do have to reflect, though, on how those difficult market conditions have caused further delays and bottlenecks across the board, and we should expect some of that to wear off on Civilization 7. Now, while they're not sending timber across the world to build log cabins in Sweden, they are still relying on a significant amount of people, of workforce, of significant labor hours, pulling loads of different moving parts together. We should expect it to be delayed, and that might be reflected in a delayed life cycle for Civilization 6 moving into Civ 7. Speaking of moving into Civ 7, actually, my next point is pretty important. Back last year, around October or November, the Civilization 6 Twitter announced that it was the series' anniversary. They were celebrating this big milestone birthday, not just for the franchise, the Civilization franchise, but as luck would have it, the man himself, Sid Meier's birthday, also happened to sort of fall within the celebration period. We know that now, we didn't know that at the time, or at least it wasn't immediately obvious to me from what I'd read. Either way, the celebration period ended up stretching across a few months, rather than it being concentrated to 1 or 2 weeks, like you might have assumed it would have been, or at least I assumed that. Again, I can be a little bit of a moron on the internet sometimes, but this thing really did drag on. In fact, I don't know if it's actually officially concluded, but I think it's fair to say it's been a few months, and there was some speculation that this massive anniversary for the franchise, picture it, your 30th birthday, what a time to announce a new game, right? Reflect back on what's been, show that beautiful trailer, casting across all of the old games, slowly merging into, wabam, Civilization 7. Whap, there it is in your face. But no, we didn't see it. We haven't heard it. The celebrations have seemingly passed. What did they involve? Well, for the most part, it was sales and social campaigns. From what I saw, massive sales on Civilization 6, some of the best discounts ever, routinely over and over and over again as well. I think I covered the Civ 6 sale about 3 times. It's been on special more than we've ever seen before, and at great discounts too. But also, really, we heard massive social campaigns as well. If you don't follow them on Twitter or other places, I guess they're on Instagram. I don't know if they're on Facebook, but I don't really know who is on Facebook. They probably are. Either way, regardless of what social media platforms you follow them on, I follow them on Twitter. Follow me if you'd like. And I noted that there was a lot of hubbub around it at first, and now it's sort of died down. We haven't really heard anything. So, with the birthday celebrations out of the way, with firaxis occupied, with the global market still suffering some pretty restrictive constraints from supply chains to labor and workforce hours, and all of this builds a base. And what sits on top of that base, everybody? Can you remember back to the start of the video? Let me tell you, it's a really solid Civ 6. A really rock solid experience. I know there are a couple of issues with it around the fringes. Every now and again I hear from someone in the comments talk about issues with the launcher. There was an update to that, by the way. You should check the launcher's settings for an update too, because I think within its own settings it has an update function. So if this is you and you're the 1% crying out right now that Civilization 6 is terrible because the launcher doesn't work, also try checking those settings. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, I don't know. But either way, it really does set a backdrop of sluggishness, right? Of slowness and delays, and on top of it, a well-performing Civilization 6 that still appears to be attracting massive player counts, huge online interest, and I assume, from those player counts and interest, reasonable sales and attention on that site as well. So why, then? Why Civ 7 is not coming? What's the answer? And is there a counter perspective? Well, there's your answer. I've laid it on the table already. The backdrop of sluggishness and a well-performing Civ 6. But let's also, just for a brief minute of your time here, reflect on the fact that through the interviews that I've covered in my other videos, we have seen dev teams reflective on the past of the franchise and showing some real interest moving forward. Now, you would expect that. Of course, it's their job and hopefully their passion. Moreover, though, I also anticipate or theorize that Civilization 7 will be a well-kept secret. It probably will be. Now, of course, in an increasingly digital age, it's hard to keep these things hidden, but I expect, from what we know from the developers and franchise history, that this will be fairly well protected and fairly close guarded. And with plenty of game festivals and PR opportunities ahead of us, there's certainly ample space for Civilization 7 in future, near or in the medium term to be announced. I won't put a date on it right now, but I do remain slightly bullish and speculative towards a future Civilization 7 release, maybe towards the latter half of this year. Let me know what you think down below. We've always got some pretty good, beefy discussions on these videos for the most part, and for the most part, really kind and civil as well. So thanks for everybody who's kind to one another, and I'll see you in the next one.